All yours.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's decision will be published in the Record Journal on Friday, July 19th, 2024. The effective date of your variance will be Friday, July 19th, 2024. The date a certified copy is recorded on the land records. The statutory 15-day appeal period will expire on Sunday, August 4th, 2024. If you commence operations and/or construction during the appeal period, you do so at your own risk. Voting tonight is Bruce Conroy, Tom Wolfer, Karen Raditz, Ray Rise, and myself, Joe Russick. First variance request is 24-015, a variance request for Sunwood Home Solutions, LLC, 288 North Main Street. Madam Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. We have staff comments that read as follows. Application number 24-015 is a variance request for lot frontage of 49.72 feet, where 50 feet is required, in order to divide the lot at 288 North Main Street in an R6 district to construct 2 single-family dwellings. The existing lot is 45,136 square feet, which is nearly 7 times the required 6,250 square feet area requirement for a residential lot in an R6 zone. One of the 2 lots created would be short 2.28 inches for sufficient street frontage. The board may wish to inquire if 2.28 inches may fall within a possible margin of error for Class A land surveys, therefore rendering the parcel potentially compliant. There is an existing non-conforming dwelling, location on the existing lot, on the parcel, which will need to be removed to allow the lot split and prevent an increase to non-conformity. The board must condition any approval on the removal of the existing dwelling as proposed. Also in receipt is an internal memo from the Health Department and an internal memo from the Engineering Department. And that's it.
Thank you. Before we get to you, if anybody's here for 24-020 and 24-016 for Parker Farms Road, that's going to be heard at our September meeting. I apologize for not doing that at the beginning. Go ahead. Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Bob Wiedenman. I live at 1443 Durham Road here in Wallingford. I'm the owner or partner with my 2 children of Sunwood Home Solutions, who is the actual owner of this property. Just for clarification, I don't think it was mentioned with the notes. Abutters were notified as required by your commission, and I think Amy can verify that that was done appropriately. So I just want to make sure we have that in the record.
Okay.
To just give you a little background on the property, our interest is to divide this property, which currently has a single-family house on it, into 2 lots. As stated, the property is large enough to actually, from a size standpoint, comply with the zoning for 7 building lots, although we don't have the required frontage to do that. Our interest is in dividing it just into 2 lots. The property has just under 100 feet of frontage, 99.72 feet, if I remember correctly. And so we're about 3 inches short on the overall frontage to have 2 conforming lots. The side property lines flare out, so if you go back 12 feet on down into the property, we would have the required 100-foot of frontage we need. But directly at the property line, we do not have what's required. The property goes back approximately 110 feet at that slightly over 100-foot width, and then it opens up to 135 feet of width and runs the remainder of the property. And the back of the property butts up to the houses at front on North Whittlesey Street, excuse me. So that's the basis of our request. It's a very minor thing. As far as I could tell from my surveyor's information, the deeds going back many years showed it at just under 100 feet, so I don't think there's anything that there was just a measurement, unless it happened many, many years ago. So I don't believe we have the required frontage, and it's not a surveyor's error, at least in my opinion. As much as I'd like to sit here and tell you it was, because I could leave now when we'd be all done. But I think the reality is that we really do need this variance in order to be in compliance with the zoning regulations.
Okay, I see you have a plan of what you're going to do with the property. Would you,
Yeah, I'm happy to show it.
yeah, would you please, because I think
happy to
that's
bring
going to
that up
help
and
everybody up here with
point it
questions.
out a little bit, sure.
And there's a microphone over right there on the that you could use.
I'm going to stand it up on end just because it's a little easier for everyone to reference. This is North Main Street on the lower portion of the plan. This is the 100-foot frontage that we're having discussions about. And I apologize if anyone's in the audience that wants to move over so they can see. Because my back will be to you, or I could try talking from the other side. I guess I can do that. Again, 100-foot frontage here, goes back approximately 110 feet, and then widens out to 135 feet approximately and runs the majority of the rest of the property. The yellow or green outline is the property boundaries. The blue line is the proposed division that we would take place if we're granted the variance here. And the pink shown in the front, or purple here, is the actual location of the existing home on the property, which would be removed. It's an old colonial, not in great condition, unfortunately. Got some mold, it's got a lot of lead and asbestos in it, and also extremely low ceilings. If it were in better condition, I would probably be here for a different reason, probably trying to salvage the house in a front lot and asking you for a variance to put a rear lot behind the house and build a second house behind it rather than 2 side by side. But we felt like with the condition of the house, it makes sense to remove it and build 2 new houses. We'd certainly be interested, although it's not really a concern of you from a variance standpoint, but I'm sure everyone wants to know what's going to happen to the property after the fact. And my intention would be to build 2 houses that would look appropriate for North Main Street, with proper trim details and porches and other things. My goal would be to have 2 houses that when we were done with them, if you were to drive down the street and say, hey, I thought they built 2 new houses here, you could not pick out the 2 that we just recently built. That would be my goal. Although we are in the construction development business, our interest here is personal. My wife and I would like to move here. My wife's got some health issues, and I'd like to build a house for my children so that they could be nearby to help with her care. So that's the reason why we're doing this. So again, I don't think that's necessarily a reason for you to approve or deny it, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit of background, because I know that especially neighbors would be concerned with just what plans we might have for the property and that sort of thing. So happy to answer any questions.
So my other question to this whole thing is, and I know it's not part of the application, we're here to talk about the variance, but are the houses going to be close to the road, set back? What's your thought?
I think they would be set back just because as the lot gets wider, we get a little more room to build within the setback requirements. We'd only have 50 feet with the the zoning requirements require 6-foot side yards, so we'd basically be down to 38-foot width for a house if we were to build in this front section from this part forward. So we have back here, we have a little more flexibility in design.
Shared driveway? I know this is not,
Yep.
but I just mind.
No, I understand. I'm perfectly fine with answering that. Yes, our intention would be to have a shared driveway to come up. Right now, there's a single driveway on this side. There's actually a couple of really interesting hitching posts right on the front
Yeah.
property line, and our driveway, our intention would be to come right between the middle of those two, and I think it would be appropriate for the street. And again, I want something that looks like every other house on the street and not stand out like a house that was built in a subdivision, which might be inappropriate in a subdivision, but not appropriate for North Main Street, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody got any questions?
Then, based on ZBA regulations, what's the hardship?
The hardship, I guess there are two ways we can look at this. From a hardship standpoint, had someone 100 years ago known that the zoning requirements were going to be 50 feet, they probably would have made sure they had 100 foot of frontage, or they would have divided it as two lots. So it was just, I don't know how it ended up at the measurement it was. It doesn't make any sense that it wouldn't have been an even number. Typically, when you see subdivisions or developments in an in-town location from many, many years ago, they were all sort of divided up into 50-foot lots or 75-foot lots or 100-foot lots. So it could be that the roads were laid out, and sometimes with surveying, you start at one end of the road, and they survey their property, and then you start at the other end of the road, you survey those properties, and somebody in the middle section is short a little bit. And that's not uncommon. I'm not a surveyor, but I just know this from my experience. So it is possible it could have been something as simple as that. But I would venture to say that I would use that, I guess, as my argument for a hardship. There is also an existing nonconformity, which the house and the front porch encroach into the front yard by about 10 feet. So we're very close to the front property line. And if my understanding is correct, and based on my attorney's representation, and I can get you the details on it if it's important, the elimination or reduction of a nonconforming use is another reason why you could choose to grant a variance, because it would make the property less nonconforming than it is today. So if you don't feel that my argument for for a hardship is valid, I would ask you to at least consider that. And you folks up here run into this a lot more than I do, so I'll venture to say you know more about that statute and case law than I will ever know. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Anybody else? Karen? Bob? You good? Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this application? Anybody here to speak against this application? Go ahead, right up in front. Come up to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record. Yes, please.
Well, my name is Mandy Bundock-Simjian. This is my wife, Heather. We live at 145 North Whittlesey Ave. So our backyard is the little nook that you see in the top left. And ever since recently, I guess there's been some tree work or some other land work done up there.
Taken down in the back there?
We've noticed an increasing amount of floodage on any time there's rain since the trees have been removed and since land changes have been made. We went from kind of just normal, regular to like gushing floods of
Nothing's
water.
stopping it, and it goes down, and it's actually ruining we have tiers of our yard, in the second tier where we're putting a big chicken coop.
You got to pull close to the microphone so you could be on.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
So where the second tier is, where the rain comes off that property, it comes between the fences and right down that corner, and has really kind of washed away a good, like, maybe 6 by 8, 6 by 10 space where it's actually lower
It's like
now.
a gully now.
And so we were going to actually address that.
Flood water.
We were going to address that too, come down to town and talk about that, because I talked to a few people that said that there's something we can address. Our question basically is, what are you doing about the drainage of those two homes? What's your plan for our properties, which are the downslope of what your properties are going to be sitting on.
You could answer that if
Okay,
you don't
yeah, I
mind.
just wanted to make sure it was appropriate time. So obviously, I was not aware, and I'd be happy to take a look at that. We did clear a small amount of trees, but I'm kind of surprised that the number of trees we cleared would cause any additional erosion and not soak up the soils. There's still good standing grass that continues to be maintained, and in the wooded portion on the back, probably third of the property is still got heavy leaf cover. So I'm a little surprised that it's changed if it's not just associated with the crazy weather we've been having with, seems like every time we get a rainstorm, it's 1.5 inches of rain, not a small storm like we had for hundreds of years. I don't know what's going on. The amount of impervious surface that we would create, and this is sort of getting beyond the ZBA, but the construction of 2 homes would not significantly change the water flows. And we could address a small amount of that by just doing things like making sure our footing drains and gutter drains go into a detention system so that they're not discharged off our property onto the abutters. As I mentioned, obviously, everything on North Main Street flows down on that side of the street down to North Whittlesey. So to tell you I'm going to eliminate the water, I'd be foolishly lying to you. But I think there are cautions we can take to minimize the disruption, because obviously that's not our intention. I don't think that having a second house here, actually, I would say for certain that we would not increase the runoff any more than we would if there were a single house here. If we were to take this house down and build one house, it could theoretically be a larger house with larger driveway and more impervious surface, and theoretically cause a bigger problem down on North Whittlesey. So I think by allowing us to split this lot and build 2 more moderate or medium-sized homes is probably a benefit, I would think. But again, I'm not suggesting that you don't have a problem now, and that, but I'd be happy to look at it and try to address it for you.
Could I ask one other question?
Sure, go ahead.
So the property that you intend to create, or the lot you intend to create on the right, at the end, near the top of that is a little bit of like a wooded area. Are you planning on clearing that wooded area and putting the house? Okay.
No, the clearing that we've done to date is all we intend to do.
Okay.
A lot of the trees were around the perimeter of the lot, just growing into the center of the yard. And we knew if we built homes, all these trees would continue to grow that way. So we really primarily just cut the trees on the sides of the property. We did clear a little bit to the back.
Okay.
But there's no additional clearing being proposed.
Okay.
Expected to be done.
Well, that's good.
Is there anything further you'd like to add? Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak against this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jerry Farrell, Jr., 54 North Elm. I'm appearing as the president of the Wallingford Historic Preservation Trust. As you know, the trust has worked very hard for many years to see that North Main and South Main Streets have been preserved. When Wallingford was founded in 1670, 38 families came and settled along North and South Main Street. The area is about 1 mile long, and this is the original 1670 area of settlement that we're talking about. I like Mr. Wiedemann very much. He's a nice guy. But, were you to approve this, you have heard that one of the oldest homes in that area is going to be demolished, that the home at 288 North Main Street was built in 1730 by the Merriman family. Bob Gross, I think you have some of them in your care. So one of those 38 families that came here in 1670. If you give Sunwood the variance, you're condemning this historic home to death. You also have to look down the road. There's several, let's say 150 houses along North and South Main Street. He's not going to be the last person that comes before you and asks for this kind of variance. It's not only the trust that's worked very hard to preserve Main Street, it's the entire community that's done that. That will happen. Again, I very much respect Mr. Wiedemann. I don't think he has the hardship here. The hardship that we're hearing is an economic one. You know, and certainly he had the opportunity to go and examine the maps and so forth to know what he was buying. This is very different from, you know, some neighbor who discovers after the fact, living many years, that they don't have quite as much land as they thought. And just for some background on that, you know, those 38 families had 6-acre lots to begin with. The lots extended backwards. So if you're on North Main Street, your 6-acre lot goes down to Route 5. Those lots got chopped off from the rear, not from the sides. So the fact that some predecessor in title chopped it off and he's lacking inches, feet, it's economic. It goes back to whoever did that at some point in time. So I'm asking you that you deny the variance. I think it sets a bad precedent, you know, for Main Street. I think it sets a bad precedent for other people who are going to come before you and want to do something similar. He's a great guy, but we have to look at what, you know, the facts on the ground are. Thank you.
Jerry, hold on one second. Bob, go ahead. You got a question for Jerry?
I want to clarify. You said that house was 1735?
1730.
1730, so it's almost a 300-year-old house. So, because, and again, Mr. Wiedemann, good guy, I'm not saying that, but the house, so when they were, you're saying those lots, just to clarify, because Mr. Wiedemann was saying about the 100
Get
feet.
closer to the mic, Bob. So you
Mr.
can-
Wiedemann was saying about the 100 feet. You're saying that when those houses were built, the land was 6 acres and it was down to Route 5, because those are,
Correct.
he's got one of the deepest lots there, or appears to be. But all those lots have depth to them, but they're all narrow.
Right. So, you know, over time, if you're on the west side of North Main Street, you see Whittlesey Avenue developed, you see Orchard Street, you see Meadow Street. In fact, why is Orchard Street called Orchard Street? Because it was Moses Y. Beach's orchard. That's how deep those lots went from North Main Street. And, you know, just knowing what I do about that particular area, I don't recall where it gets chopped off for the sides. It gets chopped off for the rear, you know, and just trying to be polite and answering what has been said to be the hardship.
I thank you. Thank you.
Is there anybody else here to speak against this application?
Good evening. Phil Euchre, Curtis Avenue. I just wanted to also add a little bit of conversation about the hardship. It was mentioned that reduction in nonconformity can be used as a valid hardship. I'm not sure which court cases the applicant was referring to, but there's varied court cases. One court case, such as Vine, says you can do it, but there's another court case more recent than that, Lavoie versus Volantown, which says if you're able to reduce the hardship without the variance, then you don't get the variance. So this house could be moved back and therefore become a compliant building without the variance. So I'd just be leery of court cases that we're not all familiar with. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak against this application? Hearing, seeing none. Amy, can I just ask you a question about this? If this was approved, does this have to go in front of the planning and zoning? This is it?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. That's the only thing I,
It doesn't go in front of planning and zoning. It doesn't require anything else from the zoning department at all. It would go through the building department.
Okay.
Unless there was something other than what the zone permitted, such as the single-family homes that are proposed.
okay, thank you. Do you have anything else further you'd like to add?
Yes, if I could just make a couple of comments. First, to Mr. Farrell's comments, and I appreciate where he comes from. I know exactly where Jerry comes from. He's been consistently supportive of protecting both North and South Main Street for as long as I've lived in town. So I know this is not personal, and Jerry and I spoke just prior to this meeting. So, you know, we understood that we were going to be at opposite sides of this discussion, and that's perfectly fine. He did mention the age of the house, and I'm not disputing some portion of this house was built at that time, but I do understand that it was built in pieces over the years. So it's not like we have a historical house that has never been modified for 300 years. It was much different. I don't know what it looked like 300 years ago, but it was not the same house that's there today. And it's been added on to, you know, multiple times. I think, as I mentioned when I was up at the board, the second floor of this house has ceilings of between 6 foot and 6'4" It has a bathroom up there that you could not have a shower in because you can't put a shower head high enough to get under it unless you're a very short person. So I looked at this from the possibility of rehabbing that house and trying to make some sense out of it, and we came to this conclusion that there was really just no easy way to make that happen. We'd have to take the entire roof off and somehow around the entire perimeter put a beam or something to increase the ceiling height. There was just no practical way. In addition, there's quite a bit of lead paint and asbestos, which is not unusual for houses of this age, and mold in the basement with a leaky foundation. So it just was not practical to try to salvage this house. If I thought there were any way to do something with this house and bring it up to current standards, I would have done that. So that's just to his comments. Regarding the court cases, and I'm just going to read it only because I want to get it in the record so that I guess it defends my position that we are deserving of the variance. And this is from my attorney who just referenced the various court cases. And the case that the gentleman mentioned, Vine versus Zoning Board of Appeals, it was one of the initial court cases, I believe that was in 2007, that discussed the ability to grant a variance without a hardship. And I believe that was based on a use hardship, not an area hardship. But then subsequent cases, and this went all the way to the Supreme Court, was Mayor Whitman versus Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Stratford. That was in 2019, and that expanded it to those area variances that we're discussing today. And there was also a third case, JML Properties LLC versus Brantford ZBA, and that was a July 2020 case, and that had to do specifically with setback nonconformities, very similar to what we're dealing with here. So again, just for the record, I don't want this to be a technical thing. It's a reason I didn't bring my lawyer here, because I didn't want this to turn into a legal thing where all we could do is now table this and come back next month after we talk to the town attorney and get a ruling and that sort of thing. But I think there is clear documentation that zoning boards of appeals can grant variances without a strict hardship determination. So for that reason, I guess I would just summarize, and I would hope that you folks would grant this application for a variance for a minimal amount of less than 3 inches, I believe. I find it hard to believe that 3 inches would keep me from moving forward, or that you would ever want to sit up here and hear any other variance. When a 3-inch variance isn't granted, then is there any other size or area variance that you could ever grant? Because this is so minimal in nature, I would find it hard to believe that any applicant could come up with a reasonable argument for granting one. So with that, I'll just request that you consider the application as it's been presented, and hopefully approve it for us. Thank you very much.
Bruce has a question for you.
Well, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. yes, we can indeed grant something without a hardship, but this is purely a financial thing. You want to split it, build two houses. I would love to see you mitigate it, and while I hate to see an old home disappear, mitigating the problems it has right now would easily be done by taking it down and building a little house behind where it belongs. For me, it's purely financial, and as for whether it's an inches or a foot, a rule is the rule. And you can still use your property. I just don't agree with it being split.
Anybody else before I close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action?
Yeah. You said that you could raise the roof if you really want to do the second floor, because it's too low right now. But you said you could do it.
I'm at a meeting.
Yes, I did say that. I mean,
We couldn't.
from a construction standpoint, if you have an unlimited budget, we could do anything. I mean, I could find another historical home of that vintage and put a third floor on it. It's hard when you start getting into the dollars and cents of what's realistic, what's practical. For $1 million or for $5 million, I can do anything with anything. I'm a pretty good builder. If you give me enough money to do it. Is it realistic or practical? I'm going to argue no. If it were, I wouldn't be here before you and I'd be trying to salvage that house. There's no reason for me to want to take that house down.
But that just builds the case that it's a financial reason why.
I think anytime anyone comes before you with enough money, they could probably solve 90% of the applications you hear.
Agreed.
It's just how many dollars?
A lot of them are financial, but that's one of the reasons the ZBA doesn't grant is for financial reasons.
Right.
All set? Amy, you said you wanted to.
There's a couple points. Number one, no, you cannot put a second floor on that. It would require a variance. It is absolutely correct that there is case law and our regulations that support reducing nonconformities. We just got finished saying that this house is in the setback. So anything you do to that existing house is going to require a variance. It is absolutely accepted legal practice, and I am not quoting case law, way out of my lane, or particulars, that it is, if you're reducing a nonconformity or a less intensive one when you're speaking uses, but this is a lesser one. If you decide that's what it is perfectly acceptable in lieu of a hardship. So I'm not going to quote particular cases or to play that, but just so you understand that that is not a true statement to say you could add another floor to that. It would require variances and more than what's being asked.
I never said to add another floor. He said there's a second floor that's only 6 feet high that he could come back.
No, you can't raise it at all. That's expanding a nonconformity. That's what I'm trying to say. That's when it requires a variance. We want them to be reduced, preferably to go away if we can. So just a point of order for folks to consider in terms of, I'm sure town's attorney will happy to weigh in if you want to see some actual, the position on the nonconformities and reducing. But I just don't want it to be misunderstood that there's alternatives to do to the existing house that would require a variance, and that's not arguable because it's expanding, even if it's an inch. So, just thank you.
Tom, you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Weedham, you mentioned a few minutes ago that you could make these homes look like the homes that are currently on North Main Street. What guarantee does this board have that you can do that?
Honestly, none. I mean, as Amy said, we don't have to get approval from planning and zoning, so it would just be my reputation and my 40 years of building in town and what I've built. And if I tell you I'm going to make something look like it was there forever, that's what's going to happen. But from a legal standpoint, I don't think you can condition the approval, or I could promise anything that would hold up in court. I could promise you, yes, absolutely, I'll make sure of that. But, I mean, would it hold up in court? I don't know. But that would be my intention. I'm not doing, As much as the question is this a financial decision? I think everything in life has some financial impact. But this is not where we're trying to build two spec homes and make it a maximum amount of profit. I'm intending to live in this house with my family, and I want it to look like it's been there forever. That's, all I have is my reputation, my word, but if that's not, if that's not good enough, I guess I got nothing else to give you tonight.
Thank you.
So all set?
Thank you.
I'm going to close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board. I'm just going to make a comment on this application. This, if it is granted, and I don't know how the vote's going to go, there is homes up there that 276 North Main, I believe, is the address. That was split years ago, and there is a rear lot there. There was a home built. The owner sold the front lot, lived in the front house. They parceled out that piece and built, I don't know if it's 276. It's either the back house is 276 or the front house is 276. There's that was done. That was done in the last probably 30 years anyways. And then there is also a little bit further up, behind where the agricultural building used to be, if everybody around is from here. There is also rear building there too. Again, I'm not saying how this vote's going to go. I'm just saying for the record, there is parcels on the street that have rear lots. That's all I'm saying. So there has been some dividing of these parcels. So again, I close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to approve a variance request for lot footage of 49.72 feet, where 50 feet is required, to split the lot at 288 North Main Street, as shown on the property and topographic survey, subdivision by deed. Land of Sunwood Home Solutions LLC, 228 North Main Street, Wallingford, dated 6/4/2024, subject to removal of the existing dwelling. So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve, Mr. Conroy.
No to approve.
Mr. Wolfer.
Yes to approve.
Ms. Radetz.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rice.
Yes to approve.
And Chairman Russick.
Yes to approve. Good luck.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.
You too. Next request is 24-017, a special exception request for Powers at 40 Northford Road. Madam Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. We have staff comments that read as follows. Applicant requests total garage area of 2,290 square feet, where 1,090 square feet exists, and maximum 1,800 square feet is required or is permitted as of right. Request is for an additional 490 square feet to construct a 1,200 square foot detached garage at 40 Northford Road in an RU 120 district. Lot is 8 acres in size, and applicant proposes to locate the garage to the rear of the dwelling, approximately 367 feet from front boundary on the western side of the property, abutting Town of Wallingford open space / Mackenzie Reservoir. The proposed detached garage will therefore be well out of any view, as well as maintaining desired ratio of garage area to living area. Garages are an accessory use and should be subordinate to the primary dwelling use band. In this case, garage area is approximately 40% of livable floor area, which is greater than 5,000 square feet of this dwelling. Property also requires health approval. We also have interdepartmental memorandum from the Health Department and an interoffice memorandum from the Engineering Department, and that's it.
Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record. Get close to the microphone so we hear you.
It's Paul Powers, 40 Northford Road, Wallingford, 06492.
Thank you. Explain your application.
I don't know if I could do much better than Ms. Harris just did, but I live on 8 acres, been there for over 23 years, and we wanted to add a 1,200-foot accessory garage. Our property is a very long, narrow property. It's almost rectangular in nature. The entire left side of us and the back is all bordering the reservoir, and the right side is a undeveloped piece of property, and then that would be the Gouvet Vineyards up the hill. The building is going to be set back to the point where the only person that's going to see it is myself and my wife, because it's completely behind the house and we're heavily wooded all around us. That's really about it. The only other thing I'd mention is I'm not sure that in regard to the health approval, there's no plumbing going in this building, so there's no impact on sewer, not sewer, I apologize, the septic system. It's just a 30 by 40 span building.
So what is going to be stored in this?
I'm sorry to smile, but you'll get a kick out of it in a second. First of all, I do have a tractor and equipment on my property that I use to just take care of my personal property. We're in no way commercial or anything like that. So I'd like to store it inside because it'll give me a lot more years of usage. I'd also like to store one of my trailers in there that sits outside that's getting the life built out of it. But the part that I think you'll find mildly amusing is that I'm a high-level competitive cornhole player, and I play literally all over the world. And I wanted enough depth and height that I could practice in the winter. I'm glad you're smiling because I find it's my retirement enjoyment. People golf, I throw cornhole.
The only reason why I'm smiling is my son is a cornhole player also, and he wants to always look for a place to play inside, same thing. That's the only reason why I'm smiling.
You can send them over because I'm always looking for people to play.
So I know you mentioned it, but I'm going to ask, just so it's on the record and everything else, no commercial use, correct?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We never went for agricultural change because it's not like I'm going to farm.
And just, because where you are located, no oil changes or nothing done in there, so we don't have to.
Nope.
Very good. Is there anybody got any questions for the applicant? Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this application? Anybody here to speak against this application? Seeing none, do you have anything further you'd like to add?
Only that the Planning and Zoning Division and everyone that worked in there has been extremely helpful for someone to go through the process the first time. Particularly Amy Torrey was absolutely fabulous, and the staff there was great, and it really helped streamline this because it was a little bit confusing when I started looking at it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to approve the special exception request for a total garage area of 2,290 square feet, where a maximum 1,800 square feet is permitted to construct a 1,200 square foot detached garage at 40 Northford Road as shown on property survey prepared for Paul and Lisa Powers, 40 Northfield Road, Wallingford, dated June 11, 2024, and plans received June 20th, 2024, subject to comments of the Health Department dated July 8, 2024. So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve, Mr. Conroy.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Wolfer.
Yes to approve.
Ms. Raditz.
Yes to approve.
And forgive me if I'm not saying our new name right. You interject. Mr. Rice.
Yes to approve.
And Chairman Russell.
Yes to approve. Good luck.
Just a quick mention. You did say Northfield Road, I'm North Ford Road, okay?
I'm sorry.
Just for the purpose of correctness in the record. My mail often goes there, that's why I know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next variance request is 24-014 for variance request for Mastriani, 4 Field Drive. Madam Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. We have staff comments which read as follows. Request is for front yard of 31.7 feet, where 31.7 feet exists and 40 feet is required, and building height of 19.25 feet, where 15 feet max is permitted, to construct/allow a 720-square-foot detached garage at 4 Field Drive in an R18 district. Applicant submitted a building permit application with accompanying zoning location survey and building plans and received zoning sign-off to proceed for a compliant detached garage. Applicant was granted the permit in June of 2022 and proceeded with construction. In October 2023, the property was cited by the building official for building code violations, constructed other than as presented in front setback and exceeding allowable height due to full dormer not depicted on plans, as well as no permits for utility hookups, water, sewer, and gas. Violation issued from zoning in December 2023 following building department referral for location and height of accessory structure. Communication with applicant immediately followed notice, and options to move and reduce height or attempt ZBA approval to allow garage to remain were conveyed to achieve compliance and closing of violation files. This application is a result of those discussions and the path the applicant has chosen to remediate. There's also interdepartmental communication from the Health Department, as well as interdepartmental communication from the Engineering Department. And that's it.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Anthony Mastriani, 4 Field Drive, Wallingford.
So, explain to us how we got here.
My son wanted a garage. I was in Florida. He dug the garage, but he dug it a year after it was staked out. He didn't realize where the stakes were, but that's a mistake. So I think the only thing that we didn't realize it because it was in line with all the other houses on the street.
Could you pull the microphone just a little closer to you so we just make sure we can hear you? Go
But
ahead.
we didn't realize there was a mistake at that point. Actually, we got inspections and everything seemed to be fine. But anyway, the building became too close to the road because there's 2 front yards. We didn't realize that. And it's in line with the rest of the houses on Penn Drive. As far as the dormer or the height, I built a house. I built the garage. I built the house. I was building the garage, and I said, geez, it'd be nice if it looked like the house. And I put a dormer on it. I didn't know why, but I just wanted it to look like the house. I didn't realize that there was an issue. And the minute they told me it was an issue, we stopped, and here we are. There is no utility issue. There is no, I don't know what all that was about, but I went to all the departments, and they signed off that everything I did was, fine. So I don't know of any issues other than the height in the front yard. I went to the water department, sewer and water, and they gave me a permit, and they said, you're fine. So I don't know of any outstanding problems other than the zoning. And again, I meant no disrespect or I didn't want to sidestep. I didn't do this on purpose. It's just one of those things, it's just, I do it in my spare time, and here I am. So it meant no disrespect to anybody. But I do want to conform, and I do want to, you know, make a nice-looking piece. I did have letters from my neighbors, if that helps me at all, you know, people in favor of, so I see you asked for that here. So my neighbors sent in letters, I guess.
So when you originally came in front of us
I
for...
never.
Oh, no, that's right, this didn't come in front of us. So
Right,
you-
I didn't, right,
So it was built too close to the road,
right. My son dug it, and
and then you put the dormers on.
what I did was, instead of having the roof just slope down on each side, I came in, you know, 3 feet on each side and just lifted the middle so it would look like the back of the other house. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be used for anything. I was trying to come up with a nice design, you know. I had no idea I had to go before someone, and it's funny because when I got all my inspections, you know, it was at the last minute that, oh, this is not going to be any good. I was pretty dumbfounded, but here I am. I have done nothing to the piece ever since, you know, that day. We built it a year after it was surveyed. You know, it was just, I do it as a hobby kind of thing, and we built it a year after it was surveyed. So that's part of the problem. You know, the stakes sat out there and couldn't read them, and so we thought it said 10 feet, and it must have been said 20. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the year after the survey doesn't make it, you know,
I know. I get it.
any better.
But again, I want to make it perfectly clear. I did not do this as any disrespect, or I always follow the rules. I'm sorry I'm here today, but I am.
Has anybody got any questions? Bob, go ahead.
So on this addition here, there was mention of water, gas, and electric into it?
No, there's nothing going to it. How this all came about was I had the electric meter put on for a separate meter to the garage, and that's when the building inspector said, oh, wait, this won't work. So we stopped. But there's no utilities going to this thing right now or nothing. No.
Right now, but do you plan on having utilities go into here?
Just from the house, I'll bring water over for a spigot. That's about it.
Who built this?
I did.
But you must have pulled a permit then?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
they gave you the specifications and the size that you
I-
needed to build?
I drew something on graph paper, and they liked it, and they said, okay, here's your permit, and yes.
So you implied you were building something, you built X.
I
You were
built the
gonna
same
You were going to
size.
build the X, but you built Y.
No, I built the same size. The
The-
only thing
the
I did was
footprint's the
lift up the
size.
roof. That's all I did.
You raised the roof,
Just part of it, yes.
but you raised it higher than you had it implied on your first.
I guess so, yes. I'm sorry, yes. I didn't have a height on my first one, I don't think.
Well, they must have told you because there's height restrictions. I would assume that they're very good. They would have said to you, they wouldn't go in there and say, you can build it 50 feet high. They would have said there's restrictions on your size, height, width, length, at some point. You might not remember, but I'm just saying, they would have told you or given you something on what the
Okay.
size of that type of thing, but
I'm sure they're good at their job, so I'm sure they did.
Are you a builder?
No, I'm an excavation. I do excavation, but
Okay.
I'm not a builder.
But you did all the
I did.
structural, all the,
Yeah, yes, sir.
and the concrete work and everything?
No,
Okay,
I had a guy do the concrete work.
thank you.
I mean, I'm
Anybody else?
capable of doing it, but I'm not a builder.
Anybody else? Amy, for clarification about I mean, we all saw the notices from the building department and everything else, and the sewer, gas, and everything. Do your best of your knowledge, and not but has that been rectified?
I can't speak to that at all.
Okay.
This was a period of time that was just the contents of the building permitting file that
Okay.
also
I just
served as
I just didn't
backup.
know if you
So
had heard. That's
what the status is, or if it ever was, or closed, or satisfied, I cannot respond to
So
that.
there's a
I can guarantee you it's been resolved because I should have brought it with me. I thought they sent a copy over here, but they gave me a permit and they signed off a final inspection on it. That was
final inspection of what? What did
The sewer. What happened was, there was a clean out in the yard, and I just put it right by the building. I moved it 8 feet, and they signed off on it.
moved it towards the house or the new garage?
New garage towards there, just to get it out of the middle of the yard. Yes.
That going to
Mr.
be
Chairman,
used-
if I may ask to, but when Mr. Gross is finished.
I'm finished if you have a question.
All this talk, I'm kind of, I would like to add a condition if it's the case. Is there plumbing in it now?
No.
Okay,
You all set?
I am.
Anybody else got any questions? Bruce, you look like you're...
I have, other than, I don't know, I really have no comment on building something you didn't tell them you were building. I mean, you apologize, that's cool, what do we do if we say no? Amy,
The property remains in violation.
and then,
If we can't remediate it, it would have to go to escalated enforcement. Mr. Mastriani has, in fact, connected with me quite often, so there was a response there, and he's been granted a little more and more time to try to rectify, and this was his choice, or the property owner's choice as well, to come this route and see if this could resolve it.
so the building.
So it would, I can't answer that. It has to be compliant. The end result, we want compliance. We're not looking to penalize. If you say it's not compliant as it is,
Well, it's not compliant as it is, right?
then I think we can use our imagination.
Right. The building's done, though, right?
Yes.
100% done.
Not the inside, no.
The outside is 100% done, the part that's really in violation. Honestly, for me, I don't care what's on the inside. We deal in the shape of the outside and where it sits.
Yes.
And the shape of the outside and where it sits is in
Yeah.
violation, in my opinion.
I'm sure it is, or I wouldn't be here. I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is.
Anybody else? We're good? Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this application?
Well, like I said, I have
And-
written correspondence.
They're part of the
We saw that.
record.
It was on the record.
They're
Yeah.
part of the record.
Is there anybody here to speak against this application? Hearing, seeing none. Do you have anything further you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
I'm going to close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve a variance request for front yard of 31.7 feet where 40 feet is required to allow a detached garage at Four-Field Drive as shown on the plot plan prepared for Janet Petrucci, Four-Field Drive, Wallingford Avenue, dated 11/2/2017, and revised 3/22/2024, and submitted plans received June 17, 2024. So moved.
Second.
This is for the front yard setback only. Mr. Conroy, motion to approve.
No to approve.
Mr. Wolfer,
No to approve.
Ms. Raditz,
Yes to approve.
and Mr. Rice,
No to approve.
and Chairman Russick.
No to approve.
Mr. Chairman, make a variance request for building height of 19.25 feet where 15 feet max is permitted to allow a full dormer on the detached garage at Four-Field Drive as shown on plot plan prepared for Janet Petrucci, Four-Field Drive, Wallingford Avenue, dated 11/2/2017, and revision dated 3/22/2024, and submitted plans received June 17, 2024. So moved.
Second.
This is for the height variance to approve. Mr. Conroy,
No to approve.
Mr. Wolfer,
No to approve.
Ms. Raditz,
Yes to approve.
and Mr. Rice,
No to approve.
and Chairman Russick.
No. Both requests have been denied.
What do I do now?
You could call Amy tomorrow, talk to her.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next variance request is for 24-018, a variance request for Mulcahy? Sorry about that. 21 Country Way. Madam Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have staff comments which read as follows. Applicant requests variance approval for side yard of 5.5 feet where 15 feet are required to locate a 144 square foot shed at 21 Country Way in an RU 40 district. There is no building permit required and no survey requirement to locate any shed less than 200 square feet in area. Accessory structure is well below the 200 square foot area requirement and is compliant with regards to allowable height. As a result, the property owner was locating the shed 5 feet minimum from boundary as believed was compliant. The 5-foot minimum setback for a shed only applies when the accessory structure is located 100% behind the building line of the dwelling. Otherwise, it must comply with applicable setbacks. Accessory structure is existing and landscaped in place. Applicant requests approval to allow the structure to remain. We also have interdepartmental memorandum from the Health Department and an interdepartmental memorandum from the Engineering Department, and that's it.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jennifer Mulcahy at 21 Country Way in Wallingford.
Welcome. So explain
bring
your
the
application.
microphone?
So
Sorry.
we can
There
hear
you
you.
go, thank you.
What was that? Sorry.
Pull the microphone closer to you.
Oh,
That way we can hear you.
good. Is
We're
that
all
better?
getting old up here.
Good.
Explain your application to us, please.
Well, I am now aware that the process for which I'm applying for the variance is backwards, and for that, I apologize. But I did not realize that I would need to apply for a variance. It's not a permanent structure. It wasn't adding to the house or a garage. It's not an oversized shed. And again, the 5.5 feet apparently, or the 5 feet only applies to being 100% behind the building line. Where it is now is the only place that I can physically put the shed, which is how it ended up where it is. I have sent in pictures that shows it pretty much fits in there, pretty out of sight and snug in there. The backyard, I have an in-ground pool and a patio, retaining walls, trees, the pool, filter, heater. I mean, there's no way to access the backyard. And the trees surround the backyard, and then obviously other properties, which are also treed to my backyard. So I'm now here because it's been brought to my attention that it is not compliant.
How long has it been there?
I believe it was April.
Oh, okay. Recent.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's no other place for you to,
Nope. If I were to move it over the approximate 9.5 feet that it would have to go, I mean, I have my AC condenser there, and any access to the backyard would pretty much be denied by any equipment, or if I did have to get to the backyard for a tree or the pool or, and no, I can't access the backyard.
so what do you use the shed for?
So that I can use the garage. I mean, it has the pool equipment in there, it has a commercial lawnmower in there, snow blower, and there are 4 to 5 cars in the family.
Yeah. Okay. Just
Yeah.
curiosity. Has anybody got any questions for the applicant?
You mentioned that it was snug and tight. It's certainly that. When I went by, I couldn't see it the first
Yes.
time by.
Yes.
That's how good it's placed in
Yes.
there. So,
And I mean, obviously, if I need to, I can also add any additional shrubbery that needs to be in there, but it is kind of hidden in there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bob, you want?
Yeah, just, and this is the case, leaving it there and so forth, but can there be a condition that if she decides to replace it down the road, there's something on there that says you can't put anything in the front yard now, fully aware that, you're fully aware of that now?
I'm 100% aware at this point.
Because
You
it's-
can't condition that.
Huh?
So there is either abiding by the regulations or not. We can't condition
Okay.
what may happen. We're dealing with just this, and I guarantee you there is probably 5,000 houses in Wallingford that have the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Unless
No.
it's pointed out, people don't realize, and that's why we don't require a survey.
It is
Yeah,
right.
no,
It's a
but you
very
can't.
small piece.
Yeah, you can't condition
Okay, but it's a
the
very small
future.
piece, and it is hidden pretty well.
So.
That's it? Anybody else? Karen?
Yes, I have a question. I'm just curious how and when it came to your attention that the place where you located it was not in accordance with regulations.
Well, I received a letter from the town, and I called Amy that day that I got the letter after a neighbor complained.
Thank you.
Yep.
Everybody good? Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this application? Anybody here to speak against this application? Go ahead, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thomas Griffin, 19 Country Way, and I'm the neighbor that the shed sits close to. I don't necessarily think that there's a reason it should be there. They do have a large enough backyard. It's not my fault that it's fenced in. It was just placed there. It's 5 feet from my side. It's in front of the front line foundation. I'm unaware that it can be placed in front of the house. Throughout the whole neighborhood, there is no shed in front of the house. So that was a concern of mine. And it is tucked in, but when you come down the street, it looks like it's in my yard until you get past the yard. Then you can see where it's sitting in the wooded area.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
We don't want to get in for,
Oh, no.
thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak against this application? Hearing, seeing none. Is there anything further you'd like to add?
No, the only thing
Okay.
I was going to say was I have 2 pictures with me that are from his viewpoint where you cannot see the shed, if anybody cares to
If
see.
you want to submit it to the record, you could bring it up, but we're going to keep it.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Do you want all of the copies or just?
Yeah, if you don't mind. You could just hand them, we'll pass them down. We'll pass them down, yeah. Okay, since there's nobody here and you're all set,
I am, yes.
I'm going to close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to accept a variance request for side yard of 5.5 feet where 15 feet is required to allow a 144 square foot accessory structure at 21 Country Way as shown on mortgage survey map, lot 85, 21 Country Way, Countryside East Section 5, dated 11/7/1989, revised date 12/11/1989, and submitted plans, photos received 6/14/2024. So moved.
Second,
Motion to approve, Mr. Conroy.
yes to approve.
Mr. Wolfer.
Yes to approve.
Ms. Raddatz.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rice.
Yes to approve.
Who's in my place? And Chairman Russick.
Yes to approve. Your variance request has been approved. Good
Thank
luck.
you very much. Thank you.
Next variance request is for 24-019, a variance request for Carlson at 5 Arbor Lane. Madam Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have staff comments that read as follows. Applicant seeks side yard of 7.71 feet, where 7.71 feet exist and 20 feet is required. Front yard of 25.45 feet, where 25.45 feet exists and 40 feet is required, and building coverage of 18.3%, where 18.3% exists, and 15% max is permitted to construct a 1,659 square foot second-story addition at 5 Arbor Lane in an R18 district. Parcel predates zoning with undersized lot area and side and front yards as presented, predating the inception of zoning as well. Property received side yard variance approval in May 1990 to construct a single-story addition which expands the non-conforming opposite side yard of 4.25 feet. Property should have received building coverage variance as well in May 1990, as the addition increased the building coverage to 18.3%, when max building coverage permitted in 1990 was 15%, as it remains today. The building coverage variance being sought with this application is to rectify that oversight, as no increase to building coverage results from this proposal. Property also received approval from Planning and Zoning Commission in October 1990 to convert the newly constructed addition, the existing garage and sun porch, to an accessory dwelling unit. This application for the side and front yard variances are to expand the pre-existing non-conforming side and front yards vertically to add 1,659 square foot second floor of living space on footprint of 2,063 square foot single-story dwelling. The board should carefully determine whether any hardship exists in the creation of 3,722 square feet dwelling with accessory apartment, 2 stories with greater than 8 feet from one side boundary and 25.3 feet from front boundary, and single story 4.25 from opposite side boundary in a neighborhood with no comparable residences. This office always raises questions when there is a need for continued and numerous variances, and whether the property in question has reasonable use currently, and if there is something unique regarding the parcel necessitating relief from the regulations. We also have an interdepartmental memorandum from the Health Department and an interoffice or interdepartmental memorandum from the Engineering Department. And that is it.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Cody Carlson, 5 Arbor Lane.
Okay. Explain your application to us, please.
If I may just forward it to my designer, he just has a couple comments about the staff notes, if that's all right.
Go ahead. But pull the microphone close to you.
Name and address.
And we need your name and address for the record.
Okay, Keith Santora, representing Handiworks Remodeling and Design. We are the company that designed the addition in question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Forgive me, and thank you for your indulgence. I came into this at the 11th hour, so I'm not completely up to speed on some of the narrative here. But I noticed one, it's probably a clerical error. The addition of 1,659 square feet for the second story should have been 1,375. So we designed the addition as 1,375 square feet, not 1,659.
Okay.
Okay, which would affect the total finished square footage, reducing it to 3,231.
What was the finish? I'm sorry.
The finished is 3231.
3231, okay.
And that is presupposing that the covered porch, which is 10 by 20, is part of the square footage.
Okay.
I don't know how you guys do that.
Well, we can get to that, but.
Okay.
Okay, so explain what you're trying to do here. So that's what we
Okay,
need.
well, I just wanted to clarify the square footages. And then in addition to that, there's part of the narrative says there's no comparable residences. The owners have some comparables. And there's at the very end, continued in numerous variances. The last variance request was 34 years ago, and there was two, and they were 6 months apart from each other. There hasn't been any since then. So these are the things that kind of came to my attention when I read the narrative.
Okay.
So I can answer any other questions regarding the design or the structure or the look or
Well,
any
we're
of
trying
that.
to, we want the explanation of what you're trying to do here, so that's what I'm asking for. What
Okay.
are you trying to do? Go ahead.
Sure, I'm sorry. I just
Yeah,
wanted
that's
to
all right.
correct
That's fine.
the.
That's fine.
All right. So we're just trying to do a second floor addition to the house. We are in an R18 unit, or R18 zone, forgive me. We're in an undersized lot. I believe it's 11,600 square feet, so we're roughly 6,000 square feet short originally. I'm not looking to increase the footprint of the said house at all. We're just trying to go up on the main part of the house just due to growing family and so on. You already have the actual sizes. And yeah, I mean, that's really it. I'm not looking to move the house out any further. It's going to be the exact footprint of what it was originally. The variances that were approved actually by my grandmother in 1990, when she went in before whoever was here, it's not going any further than that. You know, it's not going out in front, it's not going out in back, simply straight up.
So just for clarification, is the
Yes.
the previous variances were not done by you, they're done by a previous owner?
Yes. So the house has been in my family for 56 years, I believe.
Okay.
My grandmother owned the house, my parents own the house. It's being deeded to myself, my wife. My parents currently live with me. So 3 generations, generational home, really just trying to age together. So needed more room.
All right.
That was really it.
Very good. Anybody got any questions for the applicant? Karen? Bob? Nobody? Is there anybody? Oh, go ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I also, from 3 of my abutters, I do have letters saying that they're totally happy
They
to have
submitted
that.
before?
They were not. I apologize.
Could you bring them up here so we could have them and put them in on the record, please?
Sure. And if you wouldn't mind, I do have pictures and addresses of comparables within a mile of my house.
Bring 'em up.
That all were
Yep,
turned to
just bring
second
them up.
floor.
Hand them down on the end and we'll sort them out. Amy, you were looking over here. You got something you'd like to add or you're good?
I'm good.
Okay.
And
Well, you
I
were
will
looking at-
I will make one point of clarification,
Go
though.
ahead.
Variances are granted to the land. It doesn't make a difference who got them.
Okay. All
So
right.
when a property requires numerous variances, it raises a flag.
Yes, of
Why do we
course.
need so much relief?
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
It was like who did it and when. It doesn't matter because it goes on the land records.
Oh, of course, of course.
No, I asked that for clarification, that's all. I know, I understand.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear to everybody.
Yep. Just give us a minute so we can look
Sure,
at these.
sure. Do you? You do look familiar, but Mr. Wolfer was also one of my teachers, so I didn't want to, you know.
Not that old. Sorry, Tom.
You do look familiar, though. I'm not really sure which part of.
Around chasing bees, probably.
Oh. What'd you say?
Taking my dog out, yeah.
Who's his dog?
I'm shorter in person.
Are you behind me?
Up the hill.
Up the hill. Audette? Oh, okay. Oh, up, okay. Oh, by the Collins. Ah, now.
I'm not
Yes, yes, I apologize, I'm sorry.
All right, we're going to keep the, no, I know.
Sorry.
Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this application? Anybody here to speak against it? Hearing, seeing none. Is there anything further you'd like to add before I close the public hearing?
No, just thanks for having us, I appreciate it, and thank you for letting me bring my designer
Yeah,
too.
no worries. I'm going to close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve variance request front yard of 25.45 feet where 40 feet is required to construct. Now, is that 1,375?
I'm still coming up with different math, and it's according to the survey that was provided by your surveyor. Now we're coming up with 1,464. So I would be mindful, they cannot grant you less than you need.
No, of course.
So
The
if you get
actual-
1,300, you're getting 1,300, whether that matches what your plan was or not.
If you can reference the blueprint, is it blueprints called?
This is what we go by, your
Yes.
survey.
Okay.
Your
So-
proposed addition
So what is the?
is 1,464.
So
So
should
I
we
would
just
advise you
keep,
not to
change anything?
change it to 13. I would leave it where it is.
Yes, ma'am,
That's-
you're the expert.
Or you can't have it.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't change that.
I hear.
Okay, go ahead.
So at this point, I'm just going to start over.
See,
Make a
as
variance.
typed, yep.
Make a motion to accept the variance request, front yard 25.45, where 40 feet is required, construct a 1,659 square foot second floor addition at 5 Arbor Lane as shown on proposed plot plan, land of John K. and Penny L. Carlson, 5 Arbor Lane, Wallingford, dated 6/14/24, and submitted plans received 6/14/24. So moved.
Second.
This is for a front yard. Mr. Conroy.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Wolfer.
Yes to approve.
Ms. Raditz.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rice.
Yes to approve.
Chairman Russick.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve variance request side yard of 7.71 feet where 20 feet is required to construct a 1,659 square foot second floor addition at 5 Arbor Lane as shown on proposed plot plan. Land of John K. and Penny L. Carlson, 5 Arbor Lane, Wallingford, dated June 13, 2024, and submitted plans received June 14, 2024. So moved.
Second.
This is for side yard. Motion to approve. Mr. Conroy.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Wolfer.
Yes to approve.
Ms. Raditz.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rice.
Yes to approve.
Chairman Russick.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve a variance request, building coverage of 18.3%, where 15% maximum is permitted to construct 1,659 square foot second floor addition to 5 Arbor Lane as shown on proposed plot plan. Land of John K. and Penny L. Carlson, 5 Arbor Lane, Wallingford, dated June 13, 2024, and submitted plans received June 14, 2024. So moved.
Second.
This building coverage variance. Mr. Conroy.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Wolfer.
Yes to approve.
Ms. Raditz.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rice.
Yes to approve.
And Chairman Russick.
Yes. You're good to go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So I got to always ask this question. Tom, how do the minutes look?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the June 17th meeting as submitted.
Are you really?
Yes.
Awesome.
Wow.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.